morning, universe. Good morning, world. I am Hallie Nicole Perez, and this is Dzmt 475, Sci-Tech Yarne, delivering you the hottest and latest discoveries in science and technology. Today is February 27, 2023. For today's discoveries, let's travel through Africa and see their development in science and technology when it comes to agronomy. Let's hear it from Diane. Diane?
Thank you, Hallie. I am here in Central Africa to personally see and look for some scientific revolution that happens here in terms of agriculture, as we all know that this country is rich and diverse.
About 10,000 years ago, Central Africa began to undergo an economic revolution. It started in the north, where a new dry phase in the Earth history forced people to make better use of more limited parts of their environment as the desert spread outward once more. Hunters who had roamed the savannah settled beside the rivers and perfected their skills as fishermen. Gatherers who had harvested wild grains on the plains settled beside lakes, where they could sow some of the gleanings as seed in the moist and fertile soil left in the waters that withdrew at the end of the wet season. The northern border of Central Africa became one of the cradles of the world's food-producing revolution. Africa produces all of the principal grains, corn, wheat, and rice in that order of importance. Corn has the widest distribution, being grown in virtually all ecological zones. Viticulture enables people to collect wild plants on more systematic basis to protect the regions where wild tubers grew most plentifully. The regular harvesting of wild roots led to the perfection of specialized digging tools. The agricultural revolution in Central Africa was paralleled by another nutritional change as people make more skilled in catching fish. Fishermen, like farmers but unlike hunters, could settle in more permanent village communities. Their diet was richer and more varied. They could own more possessions than simply the weapons and clothes they carried with them. They could make rafts and cannon to transport people and goods on the numerous rivers and lakes.
Diane, can you tell us about the recent status of agriculture in Africa?
Over many generations, humans were keenly adapted to their environment, forming an intricate part of the ecosystem here. This was very different from the other regions of the world where humans suddenly cannibalized, creating all sorts of ecological ripples and facing environmental challenges to which they are not naturally well adapted. Over long stretches of evolution time, humans had learned to live with Africa and Africa learned to live with humans. Agriculture is by far the single most important economic activity in Africa. It provides employment for about 2/3 of the continent's working population, for each country contributes an average of 30 to 60% gross domestic product and about 30% of the value that export. That's it for the Agronomy News Report in Africa. I am Diane B. Falconaya, and this is the Dzmt 475 Sci-Tech Yarne, delivering you the hottest and the latest discoveries in science and technology of Africa. Back to you, Hallie.
Thank you, Diane. Now let's proceed to the African scientific revolution in mathematics. Let's hear it from Kaina.
Good morning, everyone. Yes, thank you, Hallie. It's really fascinating how Africa helps the modern world in terms of mathematics. Mathematics helps us improve things with certainty so that there's no question or confusion. It even enables us to land in other worlds outside of Earth. With Africa being the origin of mankind, it should come as no surprise to us that the oldest known mathematical calculations ever recorded would be located there, and that more complex traditions would have continued to pour out of the region over time. To offer you overflowing information, our team flew to the land of South Africa. Currently, I'm in the University of Pretoria, located in South Africa, giving you an insight on how Africa made mathematics. Here is Miss Kathleen Joy, one of the professors in this prestigious school, who will help us in exploring how Africa became the cradle of mathematical science. Professor, I knew that Africa is home to the world's earliest known use of measuring and calculation. But can you explain the history of mathematics in Africa and how it was called the origin of mathematics?
You're welcome, Ms. Kaina. I was born, raised, and educated in Africa, where I currently teach mathematics. I believe that the world's first known application of measurement and computation are found in Africa, establishing the continent as the origin of both elementary and sophisticated mathematics. In daily life, thousands of years ago, Africans used numbers, algebra, and geometry. After a series of migration out of Africa starting approximately 30,000 BC and later, after a series of invasion of Africa by Europeans and Asians, this knowledge spread over the entire planet. Susu is the name given to it in Ghana and Trinidad. Tontines are used in Senegal and Benin. It's esusu in Nigeria, where it first appeared in the 17,000s. Whatever you choose to call it, this system of extensive financial pooling of mutual gain demonstrates that mathematics have never been an issue for Africa. It shows how mathematics permeates our daily lives without even recognizing it. How to utilize mathematics to understand certain circumstances, how to use mathematics in our society, and how to appreciate mathematics from its earliest discoveries to the present.
Thank you very much for your information, Professor Kathleen. It is amazing that the oldest mathematical instrument was discovered here in this country. It was actually believed that African women were the first mathematicians. According to some articles, the Shango bone became the world's oldest evidence of advanced mathematics. It is not merely a measuring device or tally stick as some people erroneously suggest. It is believed to have a total of 167 or 168 notches arranged in 3 columns that extend down the length of the entire bone. It was suspected that the bone was used as a lunar calendar by ancient African women to track menstrual cycles. It has long been believed that Greece was the birthplace of mathematics. Later evidence indicated that Arab world and ultimately Mesopotamia and the Nile Valley were the sources of European math. However, alternative albeit highly criticized theories suggest that the mathematical knowledge from the Nile Valley in turn came from an even earlier source from Central Africa radiating into West Africa, the Middle East, and eventually Eurasia. This means only one, that Africa is the origin of mathematics. Thank you for listening. Back to you, Hadi.
Very informative. Thanks, Kaina. How about you, Ray? Any discoveries in Africa's scientific development in medicine?
Good morning, Hallie, and good morning, universe. I am Rain Gabriel Amreus, and we are live here at Dzmt 475 Sci-Tech Yarne to talk about and look for the ancient and scientific background of medicine in Africa. Let me take you back to the world of medicine and African civilization of medicine and science technology. Come on, let's take this ride towards the beautiful wonders of African medicine. Many fields of medicine dates back to various parts of Africa. These include common patterns, trends, scientifically proven methods, techniques, and strategies which were culturally specific and psychologically significant and are still being used up to this day. Also, did you know that one medical breakthrough was vaccination? For reference, this is how vaccination works.
Topic: vaccines. How do vaccines work?
Huh? By giving extreme pain?
Not at all. Vaccines train our body to fight against the dangerous disease-causing pathogens.
Oh, really? Do they have a training academy?
Oh, you are just unbelievable.
Huh?
Vaccines often contain weakened or dead pathogens. When they are injected into our body, they just trigger the immune response but do not cause fully fledged diseases. Our immune cells recognize these pathogens as foreign invaders and thus produce antibodies. These antibodies kill the pathogens. Also, the immune cells record the information about the pathogens and the way they were killed. Hence, in case in the future, a similar strong pathogen enters our body, our immune cells remember and easily identify that pathogen. They produce the required antibodies to fight it back. Thus, we remain healthy.
This then led to the eventual eradication of smallpox worldwide. and early anesthetics, which not only made operations considerably less painful, but also paved the way for major advances in surgery and dentistry. Indeed, many treatments we use today were employed by several ancient people throughout Africa. Before the European invasion of places, there was more advanced than medicine in Europe. Some of these practices were the use of plants with salicylic acid for pain, such as aspirin, kaolin for diarrhea, as in cowpesiftate, and extracts that were confirmed in 20th century to kill gram-positive bacteria. Other plants used had anti-cancer properties, caused abortion, and treated malaria, and these have been shown to be as effective as many modern-day Western treatments. Furthermore, Africans discovered iodine, capsicum, stigmine, and reserpine. These medical procedures performed in ancient Africa before they were performed in Europe include vaccination, autopsy, limb traction, and broken bone setting, bullet removal, brain surgery, screen grafting, filling of dental cavities, installation of false teeth, which is now known as cesarean section, anesthesia and tissue cauterization, but that doesn't stop from there. African culture are also the ones who performed surgery under antiseptic conditions universally when this concept was only emerging in Europe. See, that's the wonders of medicine in Africa. That's all for today's Wondrous News. Again, this is Rain Gabriel M. Reyes reporting from Dzmt 475 Sci-Tech Yarne. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the information, Ray. We'll be right back after the short documentary.
Dapat knows mo, mag-asawang magsasaka at tindera ng gulay, proud magulang ng mga engineer.
Sobrang nakakataba ng puso na makita silang magtagumpay, lalo na mababa nga ang tingin sa amin ng mga tao dahil kami ay sa hamak lang na magsasaka at tindera.
Nakakawala talaga ng pagod kapag alam mo nagbubunga yung mga paghihirap mo. Gaya ng mga tanim ko na tinitinda ng asawa ko. Nakipasalamat ko rin sa agrikultura talaga.
Knows nyo ba sa usaping sektor ng agriculture? Agriculture in Africa has a massive social and economic footprint. More than 60% of the population of Sub-Saharan Africa is smallholders, farmers, and about 23% of Sub-Saharan Africa's GDP comes from agriculture. Yet, Africa's full agricultural potential remains untapped. Africa produces all the principal grains, corn, wheat, and rice in that order of importance. Corn has the widest distribution, being grown in virtually all ecological zones. Highest yields per acre are recorded in Egypt and on the Indian Ocean island of Reunion and Mauritius areas where production is under irrigation. In a recent analysis, we determined that Africa could produce 2 to 3 times more cereals and grain, which would add 20% more cereals and grain to the current worldwide 2.6 billion tons of output. Similar increase could be seen in the production of horticulture, crops, and livestock. Ating balikan ang kwento ng mag-asawang magsasaka at tindera ng gulay. Mayroon silang 2 anak. Ang isa ay graduating student sa kursong Metallurgical Engineering at ang isa ay isa ng metallurgist.
Ako si Marilyn, isang incoming 4th year engineering exchange student sa Witwatersrand University sa Africa.
The University of Witwatersrand and the University of Pretoria are the only South African universities ranked in the discipline and mineral and mining engineering, giving the University of Cape Town the distinction of holding the top spot in South Africa, but one of the subject field, the engineering sector in South Africa, performed best according to QS ranking with WITS and up placing 15th and 33rd globally respectively.
Masaya talaga ako para sa anak ko dahil napakalaking oportunidad nun. At kita ko rin naman na gustong-gusto niya kung anong ginagawa niya. Sa katunayan nga, hindi ko nga alam kung ano yung kursong yun eh.
A
Oportunidad po talaga kasi despite the fact that Africa continues to have the lowest number of engineering professionals per capita of all regions of the world, they still offer a quality of education to engineering students.
Aniya, naging inspiration daw ni Mary ang kanyang ate na isang metallurgist.
Ako si Wenard at isa ko metallurgist. Metallurgical engineers design, develop, and operate the industrial processes that transforms these source materials into the useful materials and manufactured products essential for the functioning of modern society.
Bata pa lang yan si Wayne, kita na namin yung interest niya sa science, particular sa field ng core metals. Sa katunayan nga, sa murang edad niya, ikausado niya na ang periodic table of elements.
Metallurgists study the properties of metal and then apply their findings to practical application such as metal production. They work with a range of metal including copper, precious metal, iron, steel, zinc, and aluminum alloy. Many advances in metallurgy and toolmaking were made across the entirety of ancient Africa. These include steam engine, metal, chinsil, and saw, copper and iron tool and weapons, nails, glue, carbon steel, and bronze weapon and arts.
Yun nga, sobrang proud kami sa mga anak namin dahil despite of the challenges at lahat ng mga kinakaharap namin ay nakaya nila. At napatunayan nila na basta aming pagsisikap, maaabot yung pangarap kahit ano pa man yan.
Tsaka isa pa, alam naman natin na yung trabaho namin ng asawa ko ay madalas kaming malitin. Kaya yaman talaga namin itong mga anak ko at lahat ng nakamit nila. Yung pagkawit naman ang pangarap niyang maging engineer, tsaka yung si Madio na sumunod sa yapak nila. Talagang nakaka-proud. Gusto namin i-share yung kwento namin para mas makalala pa yung ganitong field.
Let's get to know more about the life of a metallurgist. What can you say about your profession?
As a metallurgist, I think one thing I could share to everyone is my experience to somehow inspire other aspiring dreamers na rin. Basically, my job requires enough knowledge of the extraction and processing of various metals and alloys. These metals are fairly necessary for production of different tools we need daily. Lalo na sa Africa, this metal dates back years ago. Ancestors ponder on how they could produce necessities through metals, and as time went by, it just grew better. It innovated.
Oh, no wonder that you were enjoying your job, but may I ask if you are wondering about establishing your company or store here in your home country? You said a while ago that you have enough knowledge. Don't you think that it is advantageous to manage the company well?
What a nice question, Ate Madge. Matagal ko na po talaga iniisip magtayo ng sariling kumpanya o negosyo. Nababase pa rin sa trabaho pinasanayan at minamahal ko. Especially with the help of my sister. So maybe, when time comes, I will.
I heard na pinadala ka sa Africa back then ng company mo, right? Can you give us a brief information about Africa?
Yes, Ate Madge. You heard it right. I am still amazed how their African ancestors made it all the way na mapanatili at lalabas na pagyaman ng kanilang bansang kilala sa mga mineral. I'm sure everybody knows that the African country has been famous for gold production since 1886. But unfortunately, Africa has been dwindling in production, so they lost their spot to China way back in 2006. I must say, miracles do happen talaga. Because South Africa gains back their title even though not at the very top. I know Ghana is known for Africa's largest gold producer and made the top 7 worldwide. Company headquartered that was leading in terms of market capitalization and commercials of mineral, especially golds, in Africa is Anglo-American Platinum.
Indeed, Africa has a significant impact on the society that we live in today due to the science and technology that they brought into this world. Akala natin alam na natin lahat tungkol sa Africa pero may tinatago pa rin pala silang life-changing knowledge na talaga namang pinamangha tayong lahat. Samantala, para malaman ang trivia at mahalagang balita, i-tweet at i-comment lang ang hashtag Ate Madge ano na. Ako si Ate Madge Dzmt 475 Sci-Tech Yarne. Always remember, importante ang may alam. Dapat knows mo.
feed our curious brain. Crystal, how do you do there? Any update regarding the country's metallurgy?
Good morning, Holly, and good morning, universe. I am Crystal May Malagaya, and we are live here in Dzmt 475 Sci-Tech Yarne to talk about and look for ancient and scientific background of metallurgy in Africa. The topic of early iron metallurgy in Africa encompasses both studies of the technology and archaeology of indigenous iron production. Some evidence from historical linguistics suggests that the new culture of Nigeria may have practiced iron smelting from as early as 1000 BCE. Smelting is the production of metal, especially iron, from ore in a process that involves smelting and chemical reduction of metal compounds into purified metal. Evidence exists for earlier iron metallurgy in parts of Nigeria, Cameroon, and Central Africa, possibly from as early as around 2000 BCE. The origins of ironworking in Africa have been the subject of scholarly interest since the 1860s. It still is not known whether this technology diffused into sub-Saharan Africa from the Mediterranean region, or whether it was invented there independently or ironworking elsewhere. Although some 19th century European scholars favored an indigenous invention of ironworking in sub-Saharan and Africa. Archaeologists writing between 1945 and 1965 mostly favored diffusion of iron smelting technology from Carthage across the Sahara to West Africa and or from Meroe on the Upper Nile to Central Africa. This in turn has been questioned by more recent research which argues for an independent inventions. Iron has a number of advantages over copper, brass, wood, and stones. The use of iron ushered in an Iron Age in Africa with an expansion of agriculture, industry, trade, and political power. In some African cultures, smelters and iron workers are low status because of the manual labor inherent in their work. In others, they are of high status because of the value of their wares. Many advances in metallurgy and tool-making were made across the entirety of ancient Africa. A condensed discussion of African metallurgy is difficult because of the large continent and 3,000 years over which it developed south of the Sahara Desert. Africa holds some of the oldest mines for exploiting ochre used in personal adornment in the world, but the ones that relate to the transformation of rocks to metal occur much later when compared to those found in Eurasia. Throughout the world, the processes of identifying and winning ores from parent rock in order to transform them into metals and ultimately into usable objects is indeed considered to be a novelty. African ethnoarchaeological research suggests that the realization that certain rocks contain sufficient quantities of metal for heat-mediated reduction into metals, as well as the appreciation of the different properties of targeted metals, have never been difficult issues to the local Africans, but the archaeometallurgists are still rationalizing how this novelty began without an apprenticeship base. Especially south of the Egyptian pyramids, indigenous sub-Saharan Africa metallurgy is laden with symbolism, ritual, and taboos. Furthermore, several metals were produced and used in Africa, and metal production involved many technological steps which were not necessarily used for each metal type like iron, copper, gold, carbon steel, bronze, weapons, and tin. Iron production, for example, involved mining iron ore and smelting it to a bloom, a non-molten mass of metal intermixed with a waste product called slag. The bloom was then forged into objects by hammering, welding, and other processes. Some pre-industrial societies made cast iron, a molten form of iron, but there is still little evidence for this technology in Africa. Copper and copper alloys, on the other hand, were often made by reducing ore into molten metal and pouring it into molds or by hammer forging called solid copper. And gold was hammered out from its original nugget form or melted and cast. That's all for today's sizzling news. Again, I'm Crystal May Maligaya, reporting from Dzmt 475 Sci-Tech Yarne. Thank you.
Thank you, Crystal. Let's move on to our last but not the least science and technology revolution in Africa, engineering. Han?
Good morning, Harry. Despite the history of slavery, many contributions to science and technology have been made by African people. To prove that, I have here Ms. Janine Alvarez, a travel blogger, to show us some historically significant engineering-based structures in the country. Ms. Alvarez?
Hello, I'll start with Leptis Magna, of course. Why? Because the city looks awesome. For starters, it is located in the northwestern Libya and eventually become one of the best-known cities in the Roman Empire. After being invaded by Arabs in 642 CE, it fell into ruin and was gradually buried in sand before being rediscovered in the early 20th century. Septimius Severus, who was born there and eventually became the emperor, expanded and adorned Leptis Magna. With its majestic public monuments, harbor, market, storehouses, shops, and residential neighborhoods, it was one of the most beautiful cities in the Roman Empire. Let me introduce you to the jewel of the Roman Empire, Leptis Magna. Let's watch this.
Do you guys remember about 6 months ago when I was in Algeria, I visited the ancient Roman city called Jamila?
Welcome to Jamila, Algeria.
I'm at a loss for words, I'm just stunned. Well, now I'm in Libya at another Roman town called Leptis Magna, and just wait until you see this.
Everything around Leptis is completely perfect, you understand, and the city is still more preserved than all the Roman sites around the world.
Will come to Leptis Magna.
Dating back to 146 BC, Leptis Magna was one of the most prominent cities of the Roman Empire. At the time, it was even considered as the third most important city in all of Africa. How many people used to live here at the height?
During the 3rd century, the glory age of Leptis, about 25,000.
25,000 people.
Yes.
So that's huge.
It's very big.
When the Roman Empire declined in the 6th century, Leptis Magna emerged as a provincial capital of the Byzantine Empire, but the city was nearly abandoned 100 years later during the Arab conquest. Today, it's remarkably preserved to the point where walking through it is like walking back in time. This place is unbelievable. We're the only ones here, of course, which makes it that much more special. Like, my biggest question always is how? How do they make this? People are so intelligent. The systems they have for the bathroom and for the eating and for the cleaning and for the sporting events and for everything. They're just so smart how they do it. So, walking around here, I want to ask you, is everything original?
Surely, everything is original. Things that around you is still more than 2,600, 2,300, everything is original.
How old is it now?
2,600.
How do you know that?
Because it's easily to tell the functions of it and the layer on this part of the nail.
Right now, it's just me, my tour guide, and my Japanese friend Atsushi, and we are stunned by what we are seeing. So how do you feel here?
Oh, I've been to so many Roman ruins, but this is so amazing.
What do you like about it?
Well preserved, and then my lovely guides explained me a lot, so we know how it was.
Okay, so this is the pilaster, which is the sports ground area. Romans, before going to the bed, they should come here. They make a little bit sporting, which is exercising, juggling. It's for gymnasium, you know. The forum is open sky in the middle, surrounded by 73 columns all around, with the series arches carry faces of Medusa over there.
This is a game?
Yes, it's a Roman game.
So how do they play?
They put it here and they be in the middle.
Oh.
Good.
Now we are entering the theater, the Roman theater. Check it out. Maybe the coolest thing about Leptis Magna, which is different than the other Roman sites in North Africa, is that right around the corner is the sea. And you can just imagine like them coming on little rafts, arriving and building. It's not a toilet.
Is that right? What's this?
They're cooking.
It's toilet. Yes. Huh? So when you are in Rome, do as the Roman do. Do it.
It's been a remarkable day here in Leptis Magna. I enjoyed it so much. Probably my favorite Roman ruins. I mean, look at the sea behind. It's incredible. If there's one takeaway you have from this video or all my videos here, let it be that Libya is amazing. The nature, the architecture, the history, the people, the food. More tomorrow. See you guys later.
Hello.
How are you?
How are you?
Nice to meet you. Kifak.
Okay.
Assalamualaikum.
Hi.
Assalamualaikum.
China or Japan?
Hi.
Japan.
How are you?
Japan mana?
Assalamualaikum. Hi. How are you? Salam. Assalamualaikum. How are you? Kifak. Wow, nice people. So we were just about to leave when we ran into this teacher and a bunch of school kids, and we've just been chatting with them for a while. They're super sweet, and I guess the story is a lot of them left their homes because of the war, and so the teacher here is just showing them the good sides of Libya, so they took them here, and they're amazing. Nice people.
So they try to tell them it's very easy, just a few minutes, a few days, everything will disappear, don't worry, and he makes some jokes for them, make some funny for them around like this. Give them the idea about the good side of life.
But these kids are from where?
Some from Tripoli, Bangashir, from Bangashir.
Thank you.
Salama.
Shukran.
Shukran. Thank you.
Shukran. Bye bye. Salam alaikum.
Bye bye.
Salam alaikum. Bye bye.
Now, let's dig deeper into the Leptis Magna's history, archaeological site, and its engineering structure.
A metropolis protected by sand, the archaeological site of Leptis Magna. Leptis Magna is on the Mediterranean coast of Libya. It's one of the largest ancient Roman sites in Africa. The area was originally occupied by a Phoenician port town, but was captured by the Romans in the 1st century BC. These monuments remained intact because the entire area was covered in sand for centuries. The complex is about 2 kilometers wide from east to west. Most of the buildings were built during the reign of Emperor Septimus Severus, who was born here. Severus was the first Roman emperor from Libya, and he wanted his home city to be on a par with Rome. This public square is named after him. Many statues of Medusa were put in the square. Medusa was worshipped as a goddess of fertility. Emperor Severus tried to revive the power of the ailing empire by revitalizing local communities. Severus also improved the infrastructure used by traders plying the Mediterranean. This ancient shipping facility is still intact. Grain, ivory, and wild animals for the games at the Colosseum in Rome were shipped out from here. Timber poles were fixed in holes and ropes were tied to the poles to anchor ships in the harbour. The port's capacity was likely up to 300 ships. The ancient metropolis of Leptis Magna clearly existed, but only about 30% of the site has been excavated so far. The work has been going on for a long time. These baths were excavated just before World War II. The building's roof is still intact. The sand inside the building protected it from the pressure from above. Scenes from fierce gladiator and animal fights were painted on the walls. Leptis Magna declined after the death of Emperor Severus and was destroyed by Arab invaders during the 7th century. The remains of the city were buried under the Sahara Desert, but are gradually emerging from their sandy shelter.
Renowned and a famous tourist site in Libya is this fantastic city, which is a wonderful destination to tourists and is incredibly satisfying. No visit to Libya is complete without seeing this magnificent Magna.
Thank you so much, Ms. Alvarez. That was truly amazing. In addition to this, sometime in the 12th century and much farther south, there were hundreds of great cities in Zimbabwe and Mozambique. There, massive stone complexes were the hubs of cities. One included a 250-meter-long, 15,000-ton curved granite wall. Large castle-like buildings with multiple rooms designated for particular tasks such as ironsmithing were present in the cities. Talking about the Mali Empire in West Africa, which is home to some grand palaces, mosques, and universities now,
The empire was founded by Sundiata Keita and became renowned for the wealth of its rulers, especially Mansa Musa or Musa Keita. The Mali Empire is an important part of history because of the new culture, systems, and wealth it brought to Africa. It began when King Sundiata Keita defeated the Ghana Empire. The empire was formed by the joining of 3 states and 12 provinces near the Niger River and Sahara Desert, including their conquest of Ghana. Mali Empire people made unique art, including gem terracotta sculptures of warriors. They also constructed amazing mosques and other buildings, mostly made out of mud bricks. Some are even still standing today. We also have the engineering structure of the Mali Empire. Much like their long-lasting art, Mali architecture is still standing today. They used many different materials to construct their buildings. The most popular material was mud bricks, which were a mash-up of materials from the ground beaten or baked together until hard. Out of these materials, the people built many mosques. They also built some warehouses, homes, libraries, and schools. Citizens who were richer were able to build their homes out of stone. Back to you, Harry.
And that's it for our science and technology revolution in Africa. Again, this is Holly Nicole Perez of Dzmt 475, leaving you with a quote: "The science of today is the technology of tomorrow." See you again soon.